This is a step-by-step checklist to get you from inconsistent revenue months to predictable, consistent 100K months with your online business. And you might be thinking, how is that even possible? Well, this is backed by a ton of experience and actual proof. So I'm gonna break down a guided process so you can actually digest each step and make real progress instead of getting paralyzed by information overload. So it's very specific, it is very detailed, and my team and I spent weeks creating this to make sure that it was as simple and effective as possible. And we based this on analyzing thousands of our successful clients. So it includes the exact steps that helped Mike make $89,000 in just 30 days. The same steps that helped Anna generate $225,000 with just 15 followers. And the exact system that allowed Samira to replace her $5,000 monthly university salary with a 6-figure online business. Sound good? Cool. Okay, so the difference between those success stories and the people who stay stuck, this is very important to understand because you can have all the items on this list, but they succeeded because they followed this 8-step checklist, whether they knew it or not, in the right order. And they took what I call messy action instead of waiting for perfection. Now, if you're finally ready to break through that income ceiling that's keeping you trapped and stuck, and you want the exact blueprint that I use to scale to consistent 100K months and well beyond that, I put together a free business plan with the 10 steps to scale your skill set and 10x your impact without trading time for money. You can simply comment business plan below and we will send you the link to access it for free on demand. Okay, so before we get into the 8-step checklist, you need to know what you do not need to get to 100K months. So number 1, you do not need to be on every social platform. Okay? Be very clear on that. We're gonna get into detail on why that does not matter a little bit later. And kind of following up on that, the other thing you do not need is a massive audience, or technically, you may not need an audience at all. So important to understand those two things go hand in hand. The next thing is saying yes to every podcast interview. Or worse, trying to pitch yourself to 1 million podcasts, hoping that they'll magically turn into revenue for your business. They can work, but you don't need them. So the next piece is working 80-hour weeks. This checklist, this plan, and everything that we aim to do is about working smarter, not harder. So you don't need to be working yourself into the ground. And that also goes hand in hand with this piece, which is constantly launching. You don't need to be creating new products all the time. You don't need to be going through launch cycles to make this work. This should be able to work in an evergreen way. And that's what we've done in our business, and that's what we've helped our clients do as well. And I know all of this because, again, I've tried all these things. I've made these mistakes. I am your guinea pig. I was stuck on that hamster wheel, constantly throwing spaghetti at the wall and never knowing what actually was moving the needle in my business. So the truth is this: revenue is for show, but profit is for health. And most people are optimizing their business, so fine-tuning, tweaking their business and doing these activities for the wrong metrics entirely. Their North Star, their end goal is so unclear that they're busying themselves with all these things and creating total chaos. Let me know if you can relate to that. So here are the first 4 steps in this 8-step checklist that change everything. And we're gonna dig into detail in each of these as we go through the video, but I just wanted to kind of guide you through the overarching idea first. So number 1 is creating a scalable asset. That is an online program. Then you have to identify your most ideal client. That's really important. So who gets the best results and who's going to get the best transformation from it? And then develop clear messaging that speaks directly to their pain point so that you can attract the right leads on autopilot. And then that brings me to building a repeatable marketing strategy, the one that works consistently for you, even when you're not working. And that brings us to the rest of the steps in the checklist. So the next thing is to implement an automated marketing system that nurtures leads, even again, when you're not constantly working or in your business. And then establishing a sales system and structure. And that means creating something that can convert consistently and has a very duplicatable process in place. And then very, very, very important, create a proof and process engine. This means that you create results with your program, and then you can collect that social proof and those results to ultimately use that as your best marketing asset, because nothing is going to sell your program better than actual results from people. If you don't have results with your program, people are going to ultimately not buy into what you do and not want to buy what you do. And then the final piece of the checklist is tracking data and KPIs daily. You have to be on this. And it sounds so unsexy, but it is the most important part of running a business. You got to know your numbers inside and out so you can make decisions from logic as opposed to emotion. And you can get off of that emotional roller coaster. I know this might sound a wee bit overwhelming. So let me break each one of these down with real examples from people that we actually work with, from our clients, and the people that have actually used this system. Okay. So we're going to dig into the first piece of the checklist, which is creating that scalable asset, which is your online program. But here's where most people completely sabotage themselves, and we see this all the time. They disappear into a cave for months trying to build the perfect program, only to launch it to crickets. So what is the big problem there? The fatal flaw. They're creating something they think people want instead of something they know people need. So here's the approach that actually works time and time again. Start with real clients. Identify what gets them consistent results and then systematize that into your program. So I began with one-on-one work. I would work with clients, and then over time, I kept recognizing that I was using the same methods with every client. It just was slightly customized to their unique situation that they were in, but it was the same process every single time. So that was kind of a big clue of how I could build the business in this way. So working one-on-one with people allowed me to then figure out, okay, what is my packageable method? And that allowed me to recognize, okay, I know that if I'm working with somebody, in order for them to get the best possible outcome, and I knew exactly what they were seeking, I needed to make sure that that method was going to get them from here, point A, to here, point B. So it really is what we call the 0 to hero method. So then you're only including in your program all the things they need to get from here to here. You remove and subtract anything else because, again, I say this a lot, but people are paying for efficiency. They are not paying for a ton of information. We can get enough of that for free online. And actually, people are so overwhelmed with the information online, they're looking for a program to just get them where they want to go as efficiently as possible. So I began testing my methods in real time with the people that I was working with to see what worked, what didn't, and it allowed me to really refine this approach here to make it as good as it could possibly be and duplicatable as it could possibly be. So it removed me from the equation and they could just focus on following the method to get the results. And the beauty of this is that you actually have real client feedback to just keep making it better and better. So once I had the method and it was consistently delivering transformations, that's when I was able to actually package it into a scalable asset. A really good analogy to think of here is think about developing a recipe. You don't write a cookbook based on what you imagine might taste good. That would be terrible. You perfect the dish with real ingredients behind the scenes, real taste testers, and real feedback. Once you know it works every time, then you can teach it to thousands. So this approach eliminates the biggest risk in online course creation and program creation, building something that nobody actually wants to buy. So let me give you a real example that'll blow your mind. So Mike had 12, he still has 12 successful restaurants and 2 #1 best-selling books on Amazon. But when he tried to create a $99 coaching program without understanding his audience, it flopped. Then he did something brilliant. He interviewed 50 restaurant owners about their real challenges. Instead of creating first and hoping people would actually buy, he pre-sold based on what they actually needed. So Mike said, I made more money in 3 weeks than the book made in 3 years. He generated $89,000 in just 30 days before his program was even actually created. So of those 50 conversations, 32 people became paying clients because he understood exactly what transformation they desperately needed. That's the power of having a proven, packaged methodology built on real client needs. The key is to start with what you already know and what you're already doing, and then package it systematically. You don't want to reinvent the wheel. You want to systemize what's already working. That is the most effective way to do it. So if you want to see exactly how to package your expertise into a scalable program that actually gets better client results than your one-on-one work might, make sure you grab a copy of our free 10x business plan. So this is 10 steps to scale your skill set and 10x your impact without trading all your time for money. So you can go ahead and comment business plan below this video and we'll send you the link to access it on demand for free, or you can go ahead and scan this QR code right here to access it on demand. So I'll show you the exact framework and the templates that we use. Now let's get into the next step on the checklist. And this one is identifying your most ideal client. And this goes way deeper than most people think. So this isn't just about generic demographics. It is beyond that. So demographics would be things like women aged 35 to 45. I am talking about something entirely different and way deeper. So I'm talking about things like psychographics. I'm talking about specific pain points. I am talking about their tipping point, which means where are they when they need to make a change, when they have to invest into some kind of a solution because their life, their relationship, their health, their happiness depends on it. So that is what we call the tipping point. So we need to isolate these pieces to really identify who is the most ideal client. Not I want to work with everybody, but who needs me and who will actually do the work to get results. Because remember, if you don't get results from your program, then it's not going to sell in the long run. So one of my clients, Anna, is a neuroscientist who generated over $225,000 with an audience of fewer than 15 people. How does that math? How is that even possible? Because she knew exactly who she was talking to and who her most ideal client was. So Anna actually told us that the power of referrals is not to be underestimated and has been a great way to find my ideal client. So she completed her research calls in less than 3 weeks. That's incredible. And built her entire business through conversations with the right people, which is what I'm focusing on right now. So when you focus on the right followers in one place at this specific tipping point where you can constantly deliver value and you know they're actually going to want to do the work because they're so motivated because they're in pain, that means that you don't need thousands of random followers across multiple platforms who aren't even going to be interested in what you actually have to offer. You need the specific people who desperately need your solution. So how do you get this deep level of clarity? So there are a few questions that you desperately need to ask to make sure that you can get this level of clarity on who you need to help the most. So these are your ideal client questions that you want to dig into to better understand where they're at, and we can really identify who the most ideal people are. So what's their internal dialogue when they're lying awake at night? What specific words or phrases do they use to describe their problem? What's their biggest fear about their current situation? What's keeping them up at night? And then what's their dream outcome? And what would it mean for their life and how would it impact them on all levels? And then what previous solutions have failed them and why didn't they work? And then finally, conditions for investment. So what would have to be true for them to invest $2,000, $5,000, or $10,000 into a solution? What would they need to know they're going to get out of that investment? When you can answer these questions with laser precision, your messaging becomes truly, truly, truly magnetic to the exact right people at the right place. And that turns into consistent conversions. So that brings us into step 3, which is clear messaging. So we're going to work on creating messaging that really hits your ideal client like a lightning bolt of recognition. You want your words to make them stop scrolling and think, whoa, this person is inside of my head right now. How do they know what I'm thinking? That is the goal. If somebody says that to you, I always take that as the biggest compliment because it really means that I know who I'm serving and who I'm not ultimately. So most entrepreneurs get completely mixed up with this and they do it all backwards. They create what I call vanilla messaging, which is generic, forgettable statements that could really apply to anybody. So therefore nobody actually wants to work with them. So here's the difference in a very tangible way. So instead of saying something like, I help people build businesses. That is wrong. Okay. So we don't want to say that because what kind of business? What size of business? How many people are working with you? Is it online? Is it offline? Is it brick and mortar? Who knows? All of those things require different paths. Yes, similar structure, but different paths, different method, different expertise. Okay. So the better way of addressing this and clear messaging would sound like this. You take this messaging and you compare it to what we really want to say and how we're really going to ensure we land with the right people. And that's really looking into what those pain points are, what the tipping point is, what's going to create a sense of urgency and recognition for them that you have the solution that they need. Let's say coaches in particular. Okay, so are you a coach lying awake at 2 a.m. wondering why you're sitting here working 60-hour weeks for inconsistent 3K months while your competitors seem to effortlessly be hitting those 20K months with half the effort. So creating that level of also like comparison and FOMO, because that is something that they're doing inside their own head. You are then hitting all of the pain points for them to go, oh my gosh, yeah, that's exactly what's happening. But here's the big difference. Do you see what is so obvious between these two sides that makes this very magnetic and this one is kind of almost repelling people? It's because this is about me. This is about you, okay? This is about the client. This is about the ideal client. You're speaking their language, you're talking to them, you're relating to them. You're not talking about me. Good marketing solves problems. Good marketing makes it feel like you're in their head because you get what they're going through. So this is ultimately going to be the much clearer messaging, and it's also hyper specific. And when it's specific, that leads people to believe that you have the specific result that they're actually looking for and the value that they're looking for. That makes them want to become a client, and that's why specificity leads to sales. So let me give you a real example of this. My client Allison mastered this messaging so well that she went from making $2,000 a month as a content creator to consistently hitting $10,000 to $20,000 months with her online program. She even had a 10K week. Her messaging was so clear and so specific that her ideal clients were practically selling themselves. So Allison works in lactation consulting, helping working moms breastfeed successfully. But listen to how she positioned her program. Confidently transition back to work while maintaining your milk supply for a full year without sacrificing your career goals or feeling like you're failing at motherhood. So that's not just generic messaging. That's going to get completely lost in the sea of pumping tutorials and breastfeed tutorials and new mom content, which is insanely overwhelming. It's specific to the pain that her most ideal clients are actually feeling. So I want to break down how you can create messaging just like that and sort of a framework to follow it to create incredibly clear messaging that hits the right ideal people. So we call it the pain framework. So first and foremost, we have problem agitation. So you want to start with their current pain point, the thing that is keeping them up at night. And don't just mention it, agitate it. Make them feel the cost of not solving it. Then we have amplify the consequences. Okay, make them recognize what's going to happen if they don't solve the problem. So for this piece, it's kind of addressing what it's costing them, not just financially, but also emotionally, relationally. What are they giving up and what are they losing out on because they haven't solved this? And then I is exciting. So this is where we start to give them a glimpse at what's actually possible if they do solve the problem. So paint a picture of what life looks like on the other side, but be really specific. Not just you'll be successful, but you'll be empowered to breastfeed your child on your terms for however long you want to until you decide you're ready to be done. That is a big, big difference and highly emotionally driven and specific to who she's speaking to. Now, the N is for we want to navigate the solution. So position yourself as the guide who can take them from where they are to where they ultimately want to be. And here's the secret sauce. You actually can have all of this hand delivered to you because you have to use their exact words. When you're doing research and you're speaking to potential ideal clients and you're doing work, maybe one-on-one, listen closely. Sometimes you can even ask if you can record them with permission so you can listen in for specific language and pull out the wording that they use. So don't say things like revenue optimization if they say making more money. Don't say work-life balance if they say, I want to stop missing my kids' bedtime. Use their words, their phrases, not your fancy business terminology. So here's a simple messaging formula that you can actually use right now, okay? So it goes like this. Are you specific ideal client who specific problem or frustration, but what they really want to achieve? I help ideal client achieve specific outcome without common objection or fear so that you can ultimately benefit from the transformation. So that gives you a messaging framework to create a piece of content that is actually going to drive action and speak to the right people. So you're getting more people interested in what it is that you have to offer. Now you want to test your messaging by reading it to somebody who doesn't know your business. If they can immediately tell who it's for and what problem it solves, you're on the right track. If they're confused or say that could be for anybody, go back to the drawing board and continue the process and just continue to iterate it. That's the name of the game. So that brings us into the next step, which is building a repeatable marketing strategy. So something to note here, I'm saying marketing strategy, not strategies, plural, okay? Probably the biggest mistake that I see people make, especially when they're getting started, is trying to be everywhere at once, because that's what we're told. You got to be on all the platforms, you got to be doing all the things. So I see people posting on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Twitter, starting a podcast, guest posting, doing Facebook Lives, trying Pinterest, and they're getting mediocre results at best when they're everywhere instead of amazing results in one place. So I want to tell you about Jordan. He's an organic gardener with no audience, no sales experience, and no prior business background. Instead of trying to be everywhere, Jordan focused specifically on speaking to urban gardeners trying to grow food in limited spaces. He wasn't sharing nice information that you can find anywhere, but insights born from his own journey, speaking directly to one specific group's frustrations. That turned into him generating a waitlist of over 400 people before he even had something to sell. So you need one marketing strategy that works consistently before you even think about adding another platform or another content strategy. I don't care how many people tell you that you need to be omnipresent. It's just not true. That's advice for people who have teams of 20, not for people that are trying to do this with a lean team or as a solopreneur. For me, that strategy has always been and will always be YouTube. It generates leads, nurtures my audience, and drives sales 24/7. Here's the key. It's not just about creating content. It's about creating you guessed it, right content for the right people at the right time in their journey. So I want to share something that will change the way that you think about content forever, how you create it, how you distribute it, etc. So I have videos on my channel that have gotten, 500,000 views. Sounds impressive, right? And made me almost nothing. And I have videos on my channel that have, let's say, 4,000 views. And those videos have generated over $100,000 in revenue. What's the difference here? How does that work? So the low view, high revenue videos were speaking to people at their tipping point. So it was a smaller audience, but a much more targeted audience. So people who are actually ready to solve their problem right now. So this is what we call the content scaling funnel and why it's so important. It's based on where people are at in their awareness journey and really their buying journey as well. So top of the funnel content, which we call tofu lovingly, is problem aware content. So these people, they really aren't even sure that they have a problem. So you need to sort of bring awareness and illuminate that there is a problem that exists. They kind of might have an inkling and maybe they're starting to do some searching, but you need to illuminate that it's actually a problem. So for a business coach, this might be why you're working 60 hours but still broke, or the real reason your business isn't growing. So that makes them aware of the actual problem. Now, middle of the funnel, which we call MOFU, it's a little bit different. So this is solution aware. So these people know what type of solution they need, but they don't know who to trust or what avenue to go. So this might be how to choose the right business coach or 5 red flags in online business programs. Then the bottom of the funnel, which is our BOFU content, is offerware content. So these people know they want what you have. They just need to be convinced that you're the right person. So this might be inside my 100K per month business with exact numbers and strategies, or why I don't teach Facebook ads and what I do instead. Things that are more relevant to you and what we call market of one content that only you could create because it's based on your actual experience and wisdom and nobody could really copy it from you. So for YouTube content specifically, the algorithm thrives on knowing where to categorize you. And that categorization is based on 2 things. Number 1, who do you serve? Who's your ideal client, which is why we had to tackle that first. And what do you want to be known for? So your expertise area. Random content equals random clients. Specific content equals specific clients and consistent sales. So the more you focus on one specific niche and keyword category, the faster you position yourself as an authority and become a client magnet, okay? Now this brings us into an automated marketing system, which is step 5 of the process. So this is really where the magic happens, where you go from trading all of your time for money to building business that truly works without your constant involvement. That's the North Star, that's the end goal, right? So this is a step that I see a lot of people get stuck at because they think they need complex funnels and tech and expensive software and 47 different automations. But the truth is the best marketing tool isn't your copy, your fancy funnel, or your expensive email platform. It is truly, truly, truly your client success stories. So one of my clients, Samira, is a university professor who replaced her $5,000 monthly salary with a 6-figure business. Her client success stories getting published in prestigious journals after years of rejection. They became her most powerful marketing asset. Proof markets better than any fancy funnel ever could. So each success created more visibility without requiring more content creation from her. So social proof and results, it's the most powerful conversion tool that you have. When someone sees that you've actually helped someone just like them get the exact result they want, the sale practically makes itself. And then they're gonna do the work, get the results, and then they're gonna be that person for somebody else who wants to enroll. So here's what a simple but incredibly effective automated system looks like. And it's what we call the no friction sales funnel. Okay, so remember we were talking about creating magnetic messaging that speaks to the exact pain point that your client is in. And this system allows you to create less content with higher return, meaning more people actually wanting to invest and more income in the business. So magnetic messaging. In that magnetic messaging, you have a very clear call to action to generate a Zoom call. Now, this could be a complimentary consultation, a discovery call, a strategy session, whatever you would like to call it. Ultimately, on this call, you're going to diagnose, is this person somebody that I can actually help? If they're actually someone you can help, great. You then make them an offer to be a part of your program and get the solution that they need. Then they become a new client. If they are not the right fit, you simply don't make the offer, period. But the simplicity of this is that it doesn't require a ton of your effort. It means making the right content for the right people, getting them onto a call, and that one person turning into a new client, especially when you are charging what the value of the program actually is, which could be $2,000, $5,000, $10,000. You don't need a ton of clients to make this work and to make it a really, really, really well-established and financially free business. Okay, so that's it. It's intentionally ridiculously simple because most people get caught up thinking they need a complex funnel. They get hung up on it. It doesn't work because they actually don't have any traffic to go into the funnel. So no people are actually in the funnel. Therefore, it's not converting. The software doesn't matter. They don't need to be having that expense in the business. And all of those different automations just are useless. So this is simple for a reason. And you might be sitting there going, it's too simple. I guarantee you, it might seem like that because it is, but it works, period. The best marketing is based on actual conversation and listening to people, using their wording, hitting the pain point that they're in, having the conversation to diagnose if you can help them, and then making an offer if it seems like a good fit. And the beauty of this messaging and this magnetic messaging is, yes, you're gonna provide value, but also you can weave in client testimonials and social proof that are detailed case studies to show that you can actually create the transformation. And that ultimately leads to even more booked calls and ultimately more clients. So the results become this powerful testimonial for future enrollment. So it becomes really this flywheel that starts to work on autopilot with more time and more pieces of magnetic messaging that are very strategically done. So you have your program here, then you have enrollments here, then you have transformation from those folks who enroll, which then leads into referrals to more people who will enroll in your program. More enrollments, more transformations, more referrals, more enrollments, more transformations, more referrals. That's how it starts to work on autopilot for you with more time and more people inside of your program getting those transformations. So think about that for a second. Your current clients become your best marketing team. They're out there telling their friends, posting their results, referring people to you. That's the power of a system that actually works. So your automated marketing system should feel like a helpful friend, sharing success stories and valuable insights, not a pushy salesperson trying to get people to buy something, okay? So now it's all about establishing that sales system and that structure that doesn't rely on you being perfect at sales or having some magical closing ability, because truthfully, the biggest key to being great at sales is having empathy and really listening to people. So I wanna share a really incredible example from Alex and Beth. So they're a husband and wife team with a cleaning business coaching program. Very specific, I know. So Alex shared.
So prior to AA, we actually already had a coaching program, but it relied heavily on two things: paid advertising and volume. So we had to get a lot of students in the door to hit our goals. We also sold that program through a sales page, which in principle sounds great, but it really doesn't matter how good of a sales page you have, your income will always be limited when you do it that way. And that really just leads to frustration as a business owner, which is kind of where we were at. So after enrolling in AA, we followed the steps and we saw where we needed to make adjustments in our existing business. And the biggest changes that we made were in our sales process. But once we implemented those changes, in our very first month, our net income actually doubled. We have maintained that ever since, and we're about to implement further guidance from the program to get us even to the next level beyond that.
So they went from spending thousands on ads every month to generating over $100,000 monthly by posting just one video per month. How? Well, they stopped trying to convince people to buy and started helping people buy. So here's what I've learned after helping thousands of people scale their businesses, and mostly completely organically without paid ads. When your offer is truly valuable and your messaging is actually crystal clear, sales becomes this natural extension in conversation, not a high pressure pitch. But most people have their sales process completely backwards. They're trying to convince people to buy instead of actually helping people make the right decisions for themselves. That's a big difference. So the simple sales framework is really broken into 3 parts: before, during, and after. So before the call, we want to have a clear application or qualification process. This isn't to keep people away. It's to make sure you're talking to the right people who are actually ready to invest in a solution. So really, this is about qualifying, okay? So you're not talking to everybody, you're talking to the people who are most ready for the solution you have to offer. During the call, you want to follow a proven structure. So I always equate sales to being a doctor. You listen to their pain, understand their challenges, and determine, do you have the right prescription for them? If you do, awesome, it's a perfect match, and you make the offer. If not, you refer them somewhere else, okay? So diagnose on the call. The big difference here is people think on a call, you sell. No, you diagnose, you listen and diagnose. After the call, have a systematic follow-up and process in place. So not everyone is going to say yes on the first call. That's okay. You need to have a way to stay connected with people who need more time to decide. So after is all about relationship building. Don't forget about folks after they finish the call with you. Some people take a long time to make a decision. Sometimes these are big decisions for people, and maybe the first time they're even talking about it out loud. Respect that and build the relationship. But here is the most crucial part of the sales system and making it actually work for you. You need to know your numbers, okay? So if you want to generate, let's say, $10,000 a month, and your program costs $2,000, okay? What does that mean? You need 5 sales. You need to close 5 people, okay? So if you close 20% of qualified calls, so of the people you speak to, 20% of them are actually qualified and ready to be in the program. That means you need 25 calls total, because 20% of 25 is going to be 5 closes. So if your show up rate is 80%, you then need to book 31 calls. Okay, to account for the no-shows and make up for it and ensure you're still gonna be able to hit this number, which leads to this number. So you might be thinking, oh my gosh, that was a lot of math. It's not just about math. It's about removing the mystery from your revenue goals, because it's too easy to own a business and be on a constant roller coaster, which is the worst. When you actually know your numbers, it's really grounding. You know exactly how much marketing activity you need to hit your targets. So you're not constantly posting content and running on the hamster wheel when you're not actually making any sales. Okay, so know your numbers, reverse engineer it. Step 7, create a proof and process engine. So essentially, this is a system for consistently collecting and showcasing client results that become your best marketing asset, if I haven't said that enough already. So this is more than just collecting testimonials. This is about creating a system where client success really becomes inevitable, and then documenting that success in a way that is repeatable and duplicatable and really anyone in the business can do. These results that you get from your clients, they are gold, because ultimately they are going to give people the belief that your program works, and they sell your program ultimately way better than any fancy funnel or copywriter ever could. So the first thing is, I'm going to build it into your program. And what I mean by that is, you want to build success into your program, into the design of it. So your program needs to be designed for client success the whole way through, not just information delivery. So this means clear milestones and accountability systems, and even surveys throughout, so you can really identify where they're at on their journey and identify those quick wins early on in the program, which ultimately builds momentum for them to do the rest of the process. The next piece is to document everything. We are crazy about this, actually. We document everything in a very systematized way. So screenshot every client win, save every testimonial, and organize them into a Google Drive folder, organized by year, broken down by month, broken down by week. And it makes it really easy to find and use the social proof when you need it. The third piece is focus on the best. So Not all client success stories are created equal. So focus on what I call your crossover clients. So people who got amazing results, required minimal handholding, and are loved by your community and by you. Because those are the people that ultimately you want to feature the most at the highest level, because that's going to attract more folks just like them because they become a mirror. And the fourth piece is, this should be pretty obvious, but make it a part of onboarding. So what I mean by that is put a clause in your client agreements giving you permission to share their wins. Make collecting feedback and success stories a regular part of the process for them, and they're introduced to it right off the bat. So this social proof becomes what I call a self-fulfilling prophecy for your business. The more client success you document, the more social proof you have. The more social proof you have, the easier it is to attract more ideal clients. And the cycle continues in this really beautiful way. So that's crucial. Client success, client success, client success. That is ultimately what is going to create sustainability for your business. And the next piece is tracking data. So truly, I mean this from the bottom of my heart, this step is going to separate the amateur from the professional. The person who has a hobby business from an actual business. And it's the step that most people completely ignore, and it kills businesses. Tracking your numbers that actually determine, whether your business is successful or not, that's going to help you understand the decisions you need to make in the long term for the health of the business. If you don't know those numbers, you have no idea what you're doing. I always say it's like shooting fish in a barrel. It's very, very hard to sustainably grow a business without knowing your data. And when I say data, I am not talking about Instagram likes or YouTube subscribers. I'm talking about cold, hard facts, cold, hard data that tells you if you're building a business or just playing entrepreneur, okay? So here's the brutal truth that I learned after years of guessing. If you're not measuring it, you're not managing it. You're just hoping things work out, and hope is not a business strategy, unfortunately. So most entrepreneurs are revenue addicts. They get high off of big revenue numbers while completely ignoring the most important question. How much of the money that you make do you actually get to keep? And what I mean by that is revenue plays to ego. Profit pays for health and sustainability. So there's something even more valuable than profit, and it took me years to understand this. And ultimately, it's peace of mind. It is security in your business. It is the ultimate business metric. Peace comes from knowing exactly where you stand financially at any moment. It comes from having enough runway that you can make decisions from abundance and not desperation. This is not some woo-woo stuff I'm talking about here. I am dead serious. It comes from never having to wonder if you can pay your bills next month, or pay your team, or pay your contractors. When you track the right numbers consistently, you stop operating from fear and start operating from data, and that changes everything. So I want to tell you about my real estate client, Brandon. When he started tracking what we call dollar per view instead of chasing vanity metrics, everything shifted. While other creators were celebrating millions of views for pennies in ad revenue, Brandon discovered he was earning like $15 per view. That's $15 versus 2 cents per view. Here's the real transformation. Brandon learned to track audience relevancy. Instead of celebrating random subscribers, he started analyzing who was actually watching his content. When he discovered that 80% of his viewers were in the exact industry that he served, it created a huge ripple effect. He doubled down on that specific messaging. And the result was his subscriber base stayed tiny compared to the big channels, but his client list was overflowing. So he hit $250,000 with just 103 subscribers in his first year, and eventually scaled that business to $4 million. Brandon told me the game changer was when he stopped tracking views and started tracking conversions. So he stopped measuring his success by how many people watched, and he really started to measure it by how many people were bought in and actually converted into a client that he could then deeply impact inside of his program. So that shift in metrics completely transformed his business, and it transformed so many businesses. So the transformation that happens when you track what actually matters is a huge one. Here are the 3 key areas you have to track. These are the non-negotiables. First, obviously, but not obviously because not everybody does this, your sales numbers. How many calls are you booking each week? What's your show up rate? What percentage of calls are converting? How much revenue are you generating each month? How much actual cash collected are you generating each month? These numbers tell you if your marketing and sales are working, period. Second, probably not shocked by this, but really important. Client success. Are people getting results from your program? What's your completion rate? How satisfied are your clients? Are you collecting testimonials regularly? Are people volunteering testimonials to you? If these numbers are bad, no amount of marketing will save a crappy offer. Okay? Third, financial health. Oh, peace. That's what we all want in our business. So what is your actual profit margin? Not just revenue. What are your monthly expenses? How much cash do you have in the bank? What's your runway? This is where most people completely fail and fall apart. It can be great for a little bit, but if you're not understanding these numbers, you're gonna make some bad decisions financially and screw this piece up royally, and that makes your business ultimately fail. So here's how I track all of this without getting overwhelmed. I spend 5 minutes each day updating my key numbers. I spend 30 minutes each week reviewing what's working, what's not, and I spend 2 hours each month doing a complete business review. When you start tracking these metrics consistently, something amazing happens. You stop guessing and you start knowing, and you know exactly which marketing activities generate the most qualified leads. You know exactly how profitable your business actually is, and you know exactly what to focus on next. That's when you go from hoping your business will work to knowing it will work, okay? Big, big, big difference. So here's what happens when you implement all of these 8 steps. Your business truly transforms from guesswork and theory to actual optimization. You stop working harder and start working smarter. You're no longer throwing spaghetti at the wall. You know exactly what's working and you just do more of that. That's the power of having a proven system versus trying to figure it out as you go. But the biggest mistake I see people make is they try to implement all 8 steps at once. Please don't do that. Start with step 1. Create your scalable asset, get that working, then move to step 2. Master each step before moving to the next. The other mistake, trying to do this alone. I spent years trying to figure this out on my own, and it was painful, making expensive mistakes, wasting time on tactics that didn't actually work. And here's what this checklist really represents for me and why I'm so happy to share it with you. It's the difference between having a job you created for yourself and having a business that works without you. That's a big difference. So when you have all 8 components working together in order, you create what I call the flywheel effect, which I mentioned earlier. Everything starts to work on autopilot. Each piece feeds into the next, creating momentum that compounds over time. So your content drives traffic to your marketing funnel, and then your marketing funnel ultimately builds your email list, your most valuable asset in your business. Your email list then nurtures prospects with client success stories. Your client success stories build a ton of trust in your market, and trust leads to sales calls. Sales calls convert because you know your ideal client inside and out and know how to diagnose them. Happy clients create more success stories, and the cycle continues, okay? So in order is really important. These 8 steps in order, it's vital. Now I know you might be thinking, this feels really overwhelming, but the thing is, even if it might sound a little overwhelming, this is exactly the process that needs to be followed, and it's more digestible if you have a way to follow it. So that's exactly why I put together a free business plan with the 10 steps to scale your skill set and 10x your impact without trading time for money. So we call it the 10x business plan. And inside, we're going to break down how to identify your most profitable business idea, even if you think your niche won't work or it's too saturated, the exact framework for packaging your expertise into a scalable program, my step-by-step system for turning your knowledge into consistent revenue, and the biggest mistakes that keep most people stuck, trading time for money, and ultimately how to avoid them. So this is the same blueprint that has helped my clients generate millions in revenue, retire their spouses, pay off mortgages, and yes, consistently hit those 100K plus months. The business plan is completely free, and it's designed to give you a clear roadmap that you can implement and follow immediately. So you have 3 ways to get instant access. You can go ahead and comment business plan below this video. We'll send you the link to access it on demand. You can click the link in the description below the video, or you can scan this QR code right here on the screen to access it right now. And if you found this valuable and helpful, which I hope you did, leave your light bulbs below because I love to hear them in the comments. I highly recommend checking out this video where I walk through how to map out your own scaling plan without the burnout for your business. Remember, you don't need to work more hours to make more money. You just need the right system. And that system starts with these 8 steps. Okay? Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.